This is a video to help you get started with your ES2000 machine. Before you get on your first job, or maybe it's been a while since you've used a piece of equipment like this, it's good to familiarize yourself with the different features and functions of this equipment, as well as best practices to be able to get the most out of your machine. As we get started with this video, I'd like to spend some time and show you the different components on the machine, so as I reference them, you'll know what I'm talking about. You'll see from the front of the machine, we've got a blade arm assembly, the slide plate, where you'll install your blade holders. Moving up from there, the operator's seat and the control handles. Control handles are simply a zero steer lawnmower type function. Push forward to go forward, pull back to go back. We use the handles independently to steer the machine. Behind the control handles and set lower here, we have the blade angle and also the blade height adjustment. So as the operator's on the machine, you can change the height of the slide plate as well as the angle of this blade arm using this handle on here and also this handle here. On this side of the machine, behind this handle, we have our battery monitor. The battery monitor will show the percentage of battery charge remaining, as well as helpful information like how many amps the machine is drawing, as well as the voltage that the battery pack is at. On the opposite side of the machine, we have our on and off switch, which is a 3-position switch, a run position, and a start position. We have an hour meter, as well as an emergency stop button. Pushing down on the emergency stop button will turn the machine off. Twisting the cap and allowing it to come up will allow the machine to be restarted. On the back of the machine, we have a few other features. I'll go ahead and turn the machine around and we'll talk about those. Starting from the top, on the back of the ES2000, you'll notice that we have a tool tray. This is a rhino lined, so it's an extremely durable tray, and this is a convenient place to put extra blades, blade holders, and other accessories that should stay with the machine. On the top of the tray here, we have 2 handles. These handles are to aid in lifting the rear cover off the machine when it's time for maintenance, but also they allow for a strap to be put through the inside of the handle, which is at a high point on the machine, which is more stable. So you can secure the machine from the back by putting a strap through here. And then all these cutouts around the side are to allow bungee cords or places to tie down anything stacked on the machine. The instruction manual is also mounted on the back of the machine here. And as you're watching this video, it is our recommendation that you take time to read your manual, because this video is not going to have all the information needed in order to safely operate the machine. We're just going over a few of the most important elements, but for the full safety information, you'll need to spend time and read your manual. If your manual is no longer in the tube mounted on the machine here, we do include a label on the back corner here of the cover with a QR code that will take you directly to all of our equipment manuals on our website. Moving down, you'll see here we have 2 different battery connections. On this side, we have the charger connection, and on this side, we have the motor connection. These are both SB175 style plugs. If this blue plug is disconnected, that will remove the battery from the control circuitry of the machine, and the machine will not operate. On the other side, we have the onboard charger. With this gray plug removed, you can plug in a larger 220 volt 40 amp charger that is set for an AGM profile directly into the batteries, which is where the mounted plug is. So the mounted plug goes to the battery pack. This plug that is removed goes to the onboard charger, which is mounted inside of this enclosure. And you'll make sure that this is plugged in completely before putting your 110 volt plug here in order to use the onboard charger. There are a number of lights on the charger that will show the status of charge, as well as whether AC power is present or if a fault has occurred. And you can get more of that information by reading the manual or by watching one of our specific charger videos. The wheels on the machine are both non-marking traction tires. Eventually, when you're running the machine, you may need to take some time to clean off any accumulated adhesive or debris in between jobs. At the bottom of the machine here, there's 2 tie-down points for securing the machine onto a trailer, and there are also tie-down points on the front of the machine as well. The controls on the ES2000 are pretty intuitive, and we'll go ahead and go through those right now. To mount on the machine, we open the handles. You can put one foot on the foot peg and then take a seat. Once you're in the seated position, you can close the handles, which allows a comfortable neutral position for the operator's hands and arms. It does also give the ability for the operator to run both control handles with one hand when that's needed. Once the operator is in the seated position, make sure the handles are in the neutral position, not forward or backwards, and then you can turn this key switch to start. The center position is run, and then you turn past center in order to start the motor. So once you've got on the machine and we've started it, you can adjust the slide plate and blade angle in order to provide clearance before you drive out of a trailer or maybe into that job site. The right control is going to adjust the height of the slide plate. By moving the handle back, it'll raise the slide plate to a high position, allowing clearance underneath. The left control handle can be used to adjust the angle of the blade. Adjusting it to a full up position, as shown here, will also provide the maximum amount of clearance. This may be necessary before installing transport wheels or other blade holders to raise everything to the highest position in order to give the most access to the front of the machine. Once you've put the machine into this position, you can drive it by pushing forward on the control handles. Even in steady pressure will give you the best control. When the machine does not have a blade holder installed, you'll feel there's a little bit of a shift, and that's the caster underneath swiveling. Driving the machine straight forward is accomplished by simply pushing both control handles forward at the same time evenly. And backing up straight is just pulling straight back. To turn the machine, just use the handles independently, and you can easily adjust the machine to the right or to the left, in either a forward direction or in a reverse direction. If you haven't operated the machine before, I recommend that you use it in an open space before trying to take it out of a trailer or onto a job site where you might encounter ramps or doorways where extra control is needed. Taking some time to be familiar and comfortable with the machine in a large open space is just going to make you much more confident and a safer operator. When you get the machine to the job site, the first thing you're going to have to do is decide what the best blade is going to be for that particular job. We'll take a few moments here and just look at a few of the general principles behind which blades would be the best for different configurations on the machine. There's many different styles of blades available. This style with its sharpened wings is best used for removal of soft goods that are glued directly to the floor. If you have carpet or vinyl, if it can be cut with a knife, typically it can be removed with one of these self-scoring blades without having to use a stand-up cutter or without using a hand knife to pre-score the carpet. One of the important factors with these styles of blades is the material must be bonded securely to the floor. Otherwise, these wings will have a tendency to just push the material instead of cut it. So they'll need to be glued down pretty tight for a self-scoring blade to work. For rescraping adhesive or removing thin coatings, one of these razor scraping blades can be a good choice. Or if you have a material to the floor such as a engineered hardwood, or for glue rescrape, you can use one of our flat steel blades as well. When you get into heavy wood removal, a blade like our Delta here, this is a 3-inch wide, much heavier, 130 thousandths thick blade. This is effective for wood removal or for light ceramic demo. For ceramic removal or for rescraping thin set is where you'll use one of these carbide scrapers. This is a 2-inch model. It also comes in a 4 and in a 6-inch size. This has a carbide insert soldered to the front of the holder and is going to give you the best edge holding and the most aggressive tool to put in the machine for extremely hard to remove materials. When you choose your blade, you'll want to use the corresponding holder. It's best to try and match the size of the blade to the size of the holder whenever possible. In this case, you can see here is an 8-inch self-scoring blade, and it is going to be held completely by this 8-inch jaw. If you were to try and use this 14-inch flat blade, the jaw will hold it, but what you'll find is the outside edges of the blade, where they're unsupported, won't follow the floor completely. and you'll have material that will tend to get underneath the blade instead of the blade staying underneath the material. So as best you're able, try to use a blade holder that is the same size as the blade. Now we'll show you how to install a blade in the machine. You've decided on which blade you're going to use, and you've got the corresponding size holder. Remove the retaining pin out of the back of the blade holder and install it into the front of the machine. The retaining pin can be dropped into the rear here, and it's not necessary to attach the bail. Leaving it open just makes it easier to remove when it's time to change to a different size holder. After the holder is in the machine, make sure that the bolts have a little bit of space so that the top cover here can be lifted. Lift the cover and then install the blade so that the back of the blade lines up with the notch in the back of the holder. Hold it in position and then tighten down the bolt. If you're not using an impact driver such as this one to install the blade, you can use this socket and wrench that's included with your machine. An important note about using a wrench like this one to tighten the blade is that when it's installed on the blade holder, you never want to push towards the cutting edge. It's very dangerous as your hand could slip and come in contact with the sharp edge. If you're going to be using a hand wrench such as this one, we recommend that you put the handle away from the cutting edge so that as you're pushing, you're nowhere near this sharp edge. And that's the safest way to install a blade with a manual wrench such as this one. Once your blade has been installed, as it is now, we want to put it immediately to the floor. Leaving this edge high and in the air makes it possible for someone walking by to hit the edge with their feet as they're not paying attention to stuff that's down low. We'll go ahead and start the machine and adjust the angle down low. Once you've installed the blade into the blade holder, you'll want to set the appropriate angle for the material that you're removing. In general, if you have something that's stuck to the floor and you're trying to remove it, carpet, vinyl, tile, or wood, you want to use a low angle. A low angle is shown here. You'll see how the back of the blade holder is close to the floor, and there is a relatively low approach from the blade and the blade holder in order to get underneath material. The low angle in this configuration is going to give the machine the most advantage and the best efficiency in getting underneath difficult to remove material. Once material has been removed, or if material is stuck extremely hard, you may have to use an increased angle for rescraping adhesive or for maybe a difficult VCT in order to stay underneath the material. And that would be done with a higher demo angle, and I'll show you that right now. The slide plate can be raised and then the blade angle adjusted. It's always a best practice to not use any more angle than is required in order for the blade to stay underneath the material, as the steeper blade angle will increase amp draw, slow the machine down, and decrease overall runtime. If you find that you keep having to increase the blade angle to stay underneath the material, that's a good indication that it's time to stop and sharpen your blade. If you're going to be removing ceramic tile or rescraping thin set or removing epoxy coatings, you're going to want to use the carbide shank. We'll install that into the front of the machine just like a blade holder. Use the pin to hold it in. And with this tool, you'll want to try and use it as close and flat to the floor as possible. First, we'll use the slide plate to lower as low as it'll go, and then the blade angle adjustment until we have pressure on the cutting edge. You'll see here that the front of the blade is in contact with the floor and the back is very, very close. With this type of tool in the machine, if you're working over a very soft subfloor, we can use pressure across the whole plate and not dig into a soft subfloor. These are best used in a very low configuration, as an increased or very steep angle will lead to premature failure of the carbide insert. The carbide insert in your machine is able to be resharpened. Rather than using it at a steeper and steeper angle in order to keep that edge in contact with the floor, it's always best to stop your machine and resharpen your carbides early and often on really difficult jobs. This can be accomplished by using a silicon carbide grinding wheel or by using a diamond wheel, either in an angle grinder or on a bench grinder. Make sure that you keep your carbides sharp, and they'll give you the most value and the most life expectancy. If you're going to be using the machine to rescrape adhesive or to remove thin coatings where a very steep blade angle is required, there's a couple of considerations. The first is your ES2000, as it sits, can get the blade to about a 45-degree angle. If more angle than that is required, that's where you'll use the included rescrape adapter. And we're going to go ahead and show you how to set this up in the machine right now. So before installing the adapter into the machine, you'll want to put the blade holder into the adapter. Here I have a 12-inch blade holder with one of our razor blades. I'll set it on the floor and simply install the adapter onto the blade holder. Once it's in this position, then I will install the blade holder and the adapter into the machine, and then use the retaining pin in the back. With this accessory, which is included with your machine installed, you'll be able to set from 45 all the way to 90 degrees in very special instances where you may need something like that, the angle of the blade with only as much weight as you'll need on the edge. This razor blade isn't nearly as tough as, say, the carbide insert or one of our heavy-duty blades, so we'll only want to use as much weight as is needed. The rescrape adapter lets you set the angle that you want without putting the full weight of the machine on the blade. If you need the full weight of the machine, it's simply an adjustment of the slide plate. Here, a very steep, aggressive rescrape angle is achieved without having to lift the whole machine in the air, which is common in a lot of other scraping equipment. This will keep the operator in a more comfortable position. It also has the machine in a much lower and safer position for operation. The rescrape adapter is used in those instances in order to give you a comfortable position and also a more effective range of blade angles for rescraping adhesive or thin set or difficult to remove coatings. One of the single most important aspects of using a ride-on scraper such as this ES2000 effectively is making sure that you always have a sharp blade. Every blade you put in the front of the machine is going to have a certain geometry to the edge, the angles that it came with from the factory. Maintaining those angles as close to factory as possible is going to keep that machine efficient and effective for a longer period of time. You'll notice here on this delta blade in my hand that there is a 22.5-degree angle on the front of the blade. From the bottom, you'll see there is no bevel at all. Most scraping tools are going to have this single bevel configuration. As the machine is engaging with the floor, it'll start to wear a back bevel on the bottom of the blade. That back bevel is what causes the operator to continue increasing the angle of the blade in order to make it work. When you sharpen the blade, it's always important to look for the back bevel on the bottom side of the blade, opposite where the factory bevel was, and then to remove material off one side of the blade until you achieve that same geometry again. If you're using an angle grinder, make sure that the disc is coming off the top of the blade and away. You don't want to run an angle grinder towards the cutting edge. The same is true with a bench grinder or with a belt sander. Using a bench grinder or a belt sander will make it easier to keep the whole edge flat and straight, which will make the machine work better. It's often best to have an angle grinder on your job site that you're using for touching up blades, and maybe when you get back to the shop, that's where you can use the bench grinder or a belt sander in order to make blades as sharp as can be for the next job, so you always start with the best tools you have available. So the ES2000 is equipped with a 48-volt AGM battery system. There's actually 12 individual batteries inside of the machine that are wired together in order to give you 10,000 watts of available power. Now, as you're using your machine, there's a few things that you should know about your battery system. A lot of the information that you'll need is actually incorporated into the battery monitor. The battery monitor is your source for the most information about the current state of your battery. The large number here, circled in green, is your battery percentage remaining. There's also a number of other figures, including amp hour estimated runtime, shown here as 99.59 as the machine is off, the amp draw, the battery voltage, and how much power is being drawn. Paying attention to this battery monitor will help you to see when changing blades or making other adjustments increases or decreases amp draw here, and that will directly affect the total runtime of your machine. The ES2000 is capable of 6 to 8 hours of runtime on most jobs. The more difficult the job is, and that can be the size of the blade, as well as the angle that the blade is set at, and how difficult the material is to remove, can all make a difference in the overall runtime of the machine. Extremely aggressive jobs are going to decrease the overall runtime. What you may notice is on a very difficult job, your battery monitor may show 1 or 2%, a low number, when the machine will shut off. The ES2000 is equipped with a low voltage interrupt. This is a system, the LVI, that protects the batteries from over discharge. Under very heavy load, aggressive removal, the machine is going to run out of battery when there may still be some percentage left on the gauge. If your machine shuts off because of the low voltage interrupt, what you'll notice is that turning your key switch all the way to the start position, off, run, and start will restart the machine, but as soon as you let go of the switch, the machine will shut off. This is an indication that your battery is at a very low voltage and that the LVI system is being engaged to save the battery from over discharge. The key switch is used as an override in that situation to allow you to get close to the wall or maybe out of a dangerous spot such as on a ramp or getting into a trailer so that you can get the machine back to where it needs to be in order to charge it. The LVI system is used to protect your batteries from over discharge. If the machine was allowed to run until the batteries were so low that it wouldn't even roll anymore, it can be extremely difficult to bring the batteries back, even with 220 40 amp chargers, and often from an over discharged state, the onboard charger wouldn't be able to bring the machine back to a full charge. That's where the LVI system works. It shuts the machine off when the batteries have reached a fully depleted level and doesn't allow the machine to be used beyond where it's supposed to be used, and makes the onboard charger able to recharge the batteries. And it also protects your batteries in the long run. Continual over discharge significantly reduces the cycle life, how many charge cycles you'll get, of your battery system. When your battery has been depleted, as indicated by that low percentage or 0 on your battery monitor, it's time to plug the machine in. It's always best to make sure that you charge your machine as soon as possible. Leaving your machine in a very low battery state for an extended period of time can damage the batteries and reduce their life. When it's time to plug your machine in at the end of the day, you'll want to use a strong circuit, at least 20 amps. 15 amps often won't give you enough power. 20 amps is going to be your best bet. Use the heaviest, shortest cord you have available. We recommend no lighter than 12 gauge and no longer than 25 feet long. Take your cord and plug it in to the charging port here. After you plug in the charger, you'll be able to look through this hole and see the indicator lights on the back of the charger that will show that 110 power is plugged in, as indicated by a blue LED, and that the charger is putting power back into the batteries, as indicated by a blinking yellow light. In addition to the lights on the back of the charger, you'll also be able to look at your battery monitor. The battery monitor will show a positive amperage, here shown at 19.9 amps, indicating that the charger is putting power back into the batteries, as well as 52.9 volts. This system allows you to see the performance of the charger at any state. After your machine has been used over a number of cycles, it may be necessary to reset the battery monitor to show 100% when the battery's at a full charge. You'll know that it's time to do this reset if the charger has run its full cycle, as indicated by a green LED on the charger, but the battery monitor is not showing 100%. If that situation exists, open the cover and press and hold the up arrow for just a few seconds. This will reset the battery monitor to 100% and make sure that the battery monitor is in sync with the actual state of your batteries. The ES2000 is a very reliable machine, but like any piece of equipment, you may find at some point it doesn't turn on when it's supposed to, or you might have to do a little bit of troubleshooting. We're just going to go over a few troubleshooting points right now that have to do with a non-start issue with the machine. The first thing you'll want to check if the machine won't start is that the e-stop is in the upright position. Checking this e-stop switch is done just by depressing and then twisting and allowing it to come back to the upward position. After you reset the e-stop, then you can try to start the machine. If that doesn't resolve the problem, the next thing that I'd recommend that you check is the charge state of the batteries. If your machine won't start, it's important to check the voltage of the battery pack. That's shown here by this middle number at 53.4 volts on this machine. If that number is below 41 volts, the machine will not start unless the key switch is held in the run position. If it's much lower than that, you won't be able to run the machine at all. This would require you to charge the machine before it will start. If your troubleshooting up until this point hasn't resolved the problem, make sure that your motor connection here is installed completely. You can inspect the contacts on the inside of these plugs to make sure they're free of corrosion. This cable goes to the controller. The plug that's mounted in the machine is connected to the battery. Be very careful working around these contacts as they will have 48 volts of power to them. Make sure that you exercise caution working around live electrical components. If this connection is installed and is clean, there are a number of circuit breakers on the back of the machine. You'll be able to see these breakers through this access hole, as well as through the opening in the back of the machine. We're going to remove this panel just to provide a more open view of those circuit breakers. If you remove the back panel on the machine, be careful as there are two cords, the backup light and the charger connection, which are attached to the rear panel. Both of these can be removed by plugs if needed. You'll see here on the back of the controller that there are 4 circuit breakers. The main circuit breaker is located here on the back of the control box behind that panel. If this yellow bar is pointing down in the off position, that will cause the machine to not start. Resetting the circuit breaker is going to put power back to the control box and allow the machine to start. If no fault exists, the machine should start now. In addition to the main circuit breaker, there are 3 smaller circuits that have resettable breakers as well. The main control circuit is reset with this 1 amp breaker on the far side of the controller, and then the other smaller control circuits are protected here as well. Make sure that all 3 of these are in there fully in position before testing any further. If you see that this main breaker is tripped, you can reset it through the access hole in the back panel. If you've gone through all of these troubleshooting steps and you still are having difficulty getting your machine to start, that would be the appropriate time to contact Anderson Innovations and ask for some help from one of their techs. If you're going to be picking up your ES2000 with a forklift, there's a few things that you need to keep in mind. The first is you'll want to make sure that you only pick the machine up from the back, as shown here. Bring your forklift up to the back of the machine and then narrow the forks so that they'll fit just inside of the rear wheels. You'll also want to make sure that the caster on the front of the machine is straight in line and not swiveling off to one side or the other. This will allow the forks the most clearance without damaging the front caster as you pick up the machine from the bottom. At this point, you'll drive the forks under the machine and try to get the machine as close to the mast as possible. Before lifting the machine, make sure that the forks are behind the slide plate support and not catching on your caster. Lift the forks, and then use the full back tilt available on your forklift. If you're going to be moving your machine for an extended distance on a forklift, we recommend that you use a strap to secure the machine to the mast of the forklift. It's a safer option to load the machine onto a crate or pallet for continued or regular lifting and transport with a forklift. So there's a few items that you'll want to check as far as regular maintenance on your machine. We'll start at the front here with the dual slide assembly. Over time, the slide plate on your machine may develop some unwanted movement. The advanced dual lift system on the front of your ES2000 has an adjustment for that. Using the provided 1.1/8" wrench, you can tighten up these 4 bolts until there's just enough torque that you can't move the bolt head by hand. This will remove any unwanted play that develops over time. In addition to these 4 bolts, you'll also want to pay attention to the bolt that holds the cylinder to the bottom of your blade arm. This bolt takes a lot of abuse, and it's a good idea to keep a few spares of this 1/2 by 3" bolt, grade 8, on hand if it needs to be replaced while you're on the job. The hinge pin at the bottom occasionally may need to be tightened up. This is the basic maintenance on the front of your ES2000. Moving back on the machine, you'll also want to look for any unwanted movement that's developed in the handles. You should be able to open the handles and leave them without them falling open. If the handles are too loose, you can tighten the handles up by adjusting this bolt at the bottom of the handle. Using 2 1/2" wrenches, use just enough torque to provide resistance so the handles stay in position and don't fall freely. In addition to the slide plate assembly and your control handles, you'll want to make sure that your wheels are also staying tight. Here on the back of the machine, you'll see a large castle nut, as well as 5 lug nuts. It's good practice on occasion to make sure that this castle nut is staying tight so that the hub assembly does not damage the motor shaft. And also to make sure that the 5 lug nuts on both wheels are staying tight, as this assembly also takes a lot of stress through regular use. It's good practice to change the oil and filter in the machine annually. With heavy use, changing it more often is just going to extend the overall life and efficiency of your hydraulic system, and the information for changing oil is available in the manual. The batteries on the ES2000 are easy to access by removing the side panels with these 4 bolts, exposing the lower batteries. The other side of the machine will look just like this. With the panels removed, you'll be able to check all your battery connections to make sure they're clean and tight. The rear cover will also provide access to the top batteries where you can do the same. All the batteries can be tested without having to do any further disassembly of the machine. Thank you for watching our video on the ES2000. If you have any questions, please visit our website and click on the Contact Us page.